The moment I stepped outside that morning, I knew something was wrong. The air was fresh, the birds were chirping, and the sun cast golden streaks over my backyard. Everything seemed normal, until I reached my pool. At first, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. The water wasn't just murky, it was moving. Not in the usual gentle ripple way, but in a sickening, slithering motion. My stomach churned. I took a cautious step closer, and that's when I saw them. Dozens, no, hundreds of slimy, wriggling eels infesting my once pristine pool. The sight alone was enough to send shivers down my spine, but when one of them suddenly lunged out of the water, writhing and flopping on the edge of the deck, I let out a strangled yell and stumbled back. What the hell was happening? Panic surged through me as I stared in horror at the chaotic mess in front of me. My pool, my beautiful pool, had turned into some kind of nightmare swamp overnight. My mind raced with questions. How did this happen? Who would do something like this? Was this some kind of sick prank? My first instinct was to check for any signs of a break-in, but my property was fenced, and nothing seemed out of place. The eels, however, were very much out of place. Just then, I heard a familiar chuckle. My jaw clenched before I even turned around. Of course, standing just beyond my fence, arms crossed and grinning like she had just pulled off the greatest joke of the century, was Karen, my delightful neighbor. The same Karen who had a history of treating the entire neighborhood as her personal playground. The same Karen who had once borrowed my garden hose without asking and returned it cut in half because she needed a shorter one. The same Karen who let her kids run wild on other people's property because, in her words, kids should be free like the wind. And now? Now she had apparently decided my pool needed some entertainment. "Oh, you should see your face," she cackled, practically doubling over with laughter. "You look like you've seen a ghost." My blood boiled. "What did you do, Karen?" I demanded, my voice sharper than I intended. She waved a dismissive hand, still giggling. "Relax, it's just a bit of fun. I thought your pool was looking a little boring, so I figured I'd spice it up. And eels? They're totally harmless." I gaped at her, trying to process the sheer audacity of her words. "You dumped live eels into my pool for fun?" She shrugged, looking completely unbothered. "Well, I mean, I didn't personally do it. I had a guy bring them over last night. But come on, they're natural water cleaners. Plus, my kids love watching them swim." I could barely contain my rage. "Your kids? You mean to tell me you did this so your kids could watch my pool like it's a freaking aquarium?" She smirked, tilting her head. "Well, yeah. You don't mind, do you?" I definitely minded. But before I could say another word, my best friend, Dave, pulled up in his truck. He had texted me earlier about swinging by, but he wasn't prepared for what he saw. The moment he stepped out and caught sight of the eel-infested horror show, he froze mid-step, mouth agape. "Dude, what in the fresh hell is going on here?" I gestured wildly at Karen, who was still standing there, acting like this was all a big joke. Karen happened. She thought it would be funny to turn my pool into a swamp. Dave, ever the blunt one, turned to Karen with an expression of pure disbelief. "Are you insane?" Karen rolled her eyes. "Oh, lighten up, you guys are so dramatic. It's just a few eels." Dave stared at her like she had just admitted to being an alien in disguise. "Lady, do you have any idea what eels can do to a pool system? The filtration, the chlorine levels. It's not a freaking lake, it's a man-made pool." Karen crossed her arms, looking bored. "Oh please, don't be so uptight. You guys act like I committed a crime." That was it. That was my last straw. "You did commit a crime, Karen. It's called trespassing and vandalism." I shot back. "You're paying for the damages, and you're getting these things out of here." She laughed. Actually laughed. "Good luck proving it, buddy. What are you gonna do? Call the cops over a few fish?" That was the moment I knew I was dealing with a whole new level of Karen. I inhaled sharply, gripping my phone. "Fine. No cops. But I will be calling the HOA." She smirked. "Go ahead. They won't do anything. There's no proof I did it. Just your word against mine. And damn it, she was right. The HOA was useless in situations like this. If I couldn't prove beyond a doubt that Karen was responsible, they'd shrug and move on. I clenched my fists, my mind racing. If I couldn't stop her now, what would be next? Would she release ducks into my backyard? Let her kids host a field trip through my property? The thought made my skin crawl. No. I wasn't letting this slide. Then, an idea struck me. Oh, don't worry, Karen, I said, forcing a smile. You just gave me a great idea. She raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued. Oh yeah? What's that? I leaned in slightly. Since you're so into aquatic life, I think I'll set up a little surprise of my own. For the first time, Karen's grin faltered. Dave, catching on, grinned. Oh yeah. I think it's time for a little payback. Karen eyed us suspiciously, but I played it cool. I wasn't about to give her any details. I had work to do, and it started with getting proof. That night, as the pool guy worked to remove the eels, I installed a brand new security camera system. High definition, motion activated, with night vision and cloud storage. If Karen even thought about pulling another stunt, this time, I'd have her caught in 4K. She thought she could get away with it. She thought I wouldn't fight back. She had no idea what was coming next. The next morning, I stood by my now eel-free pool, staring at the crystal-clear water. It was back to normal, but I couldn't shake the feeling that it wouldn't stay that way for long. Karen had gotten away with her prank once, and knowing her, she wouldn't stop until she was forced to. That's why I had spent the entire night setting up the security cameras, making sure they were positioned perfectly. If she so much as stepped near my property again, I'd have the proof I needed. Dave showed up again, a coffee in one hand and a smug grin on his face. So, did the cameras pick up any Karen activity overnight, or did she finally decide to behave? He asked, leaning against the fence. Nothing yet, I said, sipping my own coffee. But I'm not convinced she's done. She got away with it too easily. She loves attention, and when I didn't give her the reaction she wanted, she probably started plotting something worse. Dave let out a low whistle. You think she's dumb enough to try again now that you're watching? I let out a dry chuckle. You overestimate her intelligence. Sure enough, by the third night, I got my answer. It was late, and I was just about to go to bed when my phone buzzed with a motion alert from the security cameras. My stomach flipped as I grabbed the phone and pulled up the live feed. There she was. Karen, sneaking into my backyard like some kind of suburban ninja, carrying a large bucket. I quickly hit record and zoomed in. The moment she reached the pool, she lifted the bucket with both hands and dumped its contents into the water. I squinted at the screen, trying to see what it was, but I didn't have to wait long for an answer. A flurry of movement rippled across the surface, and then I saw them. Frogs. Not just a couple, but dozens, maybe even hundreds, frantically swimming in every direction. My jaw clenched. She was escalating. I turned on my porch light, stepping outside before she could make her escape. Karen, what the hell are you doing now? Karen froze for a split second, then turned around with that same infuriating smirk. Oh hey there, neighbor. Just doing you another favor. You know, frogs eat bugs, so really, I'm helping with your mosquito problem. I let out a slow breath, trying not to explode right then and there. Get off my property. She shrugged. Wow, someone's cranky. Maybe you should take a relaxing swim. Oh wait, never mind. She let out a loud cackle, clearly enjoying herself. I pointed at the cameras. I have everything recorded this time. You're not getting away with it. She hesitated for the briefest second before regaining her composure. So what? It's just frogs. Who's gonna care? It's not like I trashed your yard or broke anything. I clenched my fist. This is trespassing. Harassment. And it's all on video. She rolled her eyes, clearly still thinking she could talk her way out of it. Oh please, the HOA won't do anything. They never do. And what, you're gonna call the cops over a couple of frogs? That's when karma decided to step in. She turned to leave, walking a little too confidently along the wet pool deck, and before I could even register what was happening, her foot slipped. Her arms flailed wildly, her smirk vanished, and with a loud splash, Karen plunged straight into the frog-infested water. For a split second, everything was silent. Then the screaming started. It was the kind of scream that could shatter glass, the kind that would make someone think she was being attacked by a swarm of piranhas. She thrashed wildly, sending waves splashing over the edge as frogs scattered in every direction. I stood there, torn between pure satisfaction and mild concern. Dave, who had just arrived after seeing my messages, doubled over laughing. "Oh my God, this is too good!" Karen flailed, coughing and gagging as she tried to get to the edge. "Help me, you idiot! Get me out of here!" I folded my arms. "Oh, I thought you loved nature? What happened to they're just frogs?" She let out another ear-piercing shriek, slapping the water in frustration. "I swear, if you don't help me right now—" "Relax, Karen," Dave said between fits of laughter. "Frogs are totally harmless." That only made her scream louder. After letting her suffer just long enough to get the message, I finally walked over and grabbed the pool net, holding it out to her. She yanked herself up, her face beet red with humiliation, soaking wet, her clothes clinging to her like a drowned rat. She turned to me with a look that could kill. "Delete the footage." I stared at her blankly. "No." Her face twisted with rage. "You have no right to film me. You trespassed onto my property and vandalized it." "I have every right," I shot back. "And now I have solid proof." She clenched her fists, her entire body shaking with rage, then stomped off, dripping wet, leaving a trail of water and humiliation in her wake. Dave wiped a tear from his eye. "I think that was the single greatest thing I've ever witnessed." I grinned. "And it's all on camera. But the best part? I hadn't even started exposing her yet." The next morning, I woke up feeling like a man on a mission. Last night had been the best thing that could have happened. Not only had Karen trespassed again, but she had humiliated herself in the process, and I had it all on video. This time, there was no way she could talk her way out of it. I poured myself a cup of coffee and watched the security footage one more time, savoring every second of Karen flailing in the pool, her screams echoing through the night. Dave showed up at my house early, looking far too excited for someone who hadn't had his morning coffee yet. He leaned against the counter and smirked. "So, what's the plan? Because if you're not posting that video, I might do it for you." I grinned. "Oh, I'm posting it. But not just anywhere. I'm sending it straight to the HOA first." Dave let out a low whistle. "You think they'll actually do something this time?" I nodded. "With this kind of evidence? They'll have no choice. Plus, I'm sending it to a few of the neighbors who are sick of her nonsense. Let's just say, she's about to have a very bad day." By noon, the video had made the rounds. I had emailed it directly to the HOA, uploaded it to the neighborhood Facebook group, and sent it to a few people who had been on the receiving end of Karen's antic. The response was immediate. The comments section exploded with people laughing, sharing their own stories, and, most importantly, demanding that the HOA finally take action. Karen must have found out pretty quickly, because by mid-afternoon, she was pounding on my front door. I opened it to find her standing there, red-faced and furious, her phone clutched tightly in her hand. "You think you're so funny, don't you?" she snapped. "Delete that video right now." I took a slow sip of my coffee, enjoying the moment. "No." Her eyes widened in disbelief. "You can't just post things like that. You're making me look bad." I raised an eyebrow. "Karen, you did that to yourself. You trespassed. You vandalized my property. And then you fell into your own mess. I just made sure everyone saw the truth." She let out a strangled noise of frustration. "This is defamation." I smirked. "It's literally just footage of what happened. If you don't like how it looks, maybe you shouldn't have done it." She opened her mouth to argue, but before she could, another voice cut in. Karen, I think you should leave. We both turned to see Mr. Thompson, the HOA president, standing at the end of my driveway with a stern expression. He held up his phone. We've all seen the footage. And we had an emergency meeting this morning. Congratulations, Karen. You've officially earned yourself the largest fine the HOA has ever given out. Karen's face went from red to pale in a matter of seconds. What? You can't. Oh, we can, Mr. Thompson said, his voice dripping with satisfaction. You've been warned before. You've been reported countless times. But this time, there's undeniable proof. You're being fined for trespassing, vandalism, and harassment. And since this is your third major offense, if it happens again, you're looking at a potential lawsuit. Karen's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. This is so unfair. Mr. Thompson gave her a cold smile. No, what's unfair is how much nonsense this neighborhood has had to put up with because of you. She turned back to me, her eyes burning with hatred. You set me up. I laughed. Oh, so now you admit you did it? Thanks for that. She let out a frustrated scream, spun on her heel, and stormed back toward her house. I watched her go, feeling incredibly satisfied. Mr. Thompson turned to me. If she does anything else, let us know immediately. We're keeping a close eye on her now. I nodded. Oh, don't worry. I've got plenty of security cameras now. That night, as I sat by my now peaceful, frog-free pool, Dave showed up with a case of beer. He plopped down in a chair next to me and handed me one. To victory. I grinned, clinking my bottle against his. To finally shutting Karen up. We sat there for a moment, enjoying the quiet. But then, Dave glanced at me with a mischievous smirk. You know, we never really got her back for the whole eel thing. I raised an eyebrow. I mean, I think the public humiliation and HOA fine did the job. Dave shook his head. Nah, she needs one final lesson. Something harmless. Something poetic. I leaned back, thinking it over. And then, an idea hit me. What if we throw a huge pool party? Open invite to the neighborhood, everyone except Karen. Dave's grin widened. I like where this is going. And we make the theme Eel-Free Fund. Dave nearly fell out of his chair laughing. Dude, that is perfect. The next weekend, we made it happen. The whole neighborhood showed up. We had music, food, floaties, everything you could want in a summer party. And right in front of the pool, we put up a big sign that said, guaranteed no eels, frogs, or Karens. Word must have gotten to her, because at some point, Karen stormed over, fuming. You can't just exclude me from a neighborhood event. I sipped my drink, barely suppressing a smile. Oh, sorry, Karen. But, you know, we just can't risk another wildlife incident. A few of the guests heard and chuckled. Someone muttered, Eel Queen strikes again. Karen's face turned bright red. You people are awful. Then someone from the crowd started chanting, Eel Queen! Eel Queen! Within seconds, more people joined in. Karen stood there, trembling with rage, before finally storming away. As I watched her disappear down the street, Dave clapped me on the back. I think that's the first time she's ever actually left someone else's property without an argument. I laughed. Miracles happen. And for the rest of the summer, I got to enjoy my pool without a single surprise guest.